Hey everyone. I've been absent for a little bit, a couple of weeks, I believe. So I know I need to continue on with my top favorite CDs, and I got a really good one. I did a video on this band back in 2023, so roughly a couple of years or whatever, and also just a year ago, my good a guy that's so very knowledgeable about everything 60s. I mean, everything, just every genre, and he has you know, just a huge vinyl collection, and that's Matt Williamson. He's doing a video, in fact, on Donovan, and I watch him, Pop Goes the 60s, and he did a really great band history on this group that I think not a lot of people. Either people know about. Maybe there are some people that do know about this group, and they are a family group. I just feel like a lot of people seem to. Maybe some people maybe not know who they are. And that's a good chunk of people that are very much into the. Like myself, however, that is very much, very enthused of the, that music, and just the, just some of those great bands and artists and stuff that really hit their stride, But this band is absolutely critically underrated, and I am talking about the Free Design, a group based on a group that's from New York. And the main guy, that wrote the songs, really the main writer of pretty much every one of their songs. Maybe one of the other brothers, I don't know, but it's the Dedrick family, right? Yeah, the Dedricks. Originally, I believe for their first album, they only had, I think it was mainly just. The two brothers and maybe the one sister. Maybe they had another one that joined in as well, maybe a year later or something. But the main writer is Chris Dedrick, who's like the oldest. I believe he's the oldest brother out of the Dedricks. And their first album, and they were now they had an option on which record label to choose, but I think their father, however, wanted them to just be kind of, not really be really, really big, really be, really be big hit makers or whatever, So their dad decided basically on their own, on their own term or whatever, basically decided that they should just be a group signed to just some independent label, and it was Project 3, I believe, or something like that. And they had a few other options, I think Columbia Records, RCA, or something like that. But they went with Project 3, and they did the first album that was called Kites Are Fun. Now, it came out in 1967, the spring of 67, and it's perfect. It's such a perfect, perfect way of how it was released and stuff. It's like perfect. Kites are fun, it's kind of like spring, Yeah, April of 67, it had charted really, really poorly, of course, Now, there are rare pressings, however, of the single that was actually released, Kites Are Fun, but it's very rarely that you ever see. I think I've seen one on Discogs or something like that. But yeah, the very first album, Kites Are Fun. And I believe on the back of the CD, they actually show they show the actual albums. So this is what the first one looked like, basically, You got the main brother, and you got, I forgot the other name of the other, I think he's like the youngest or whatever, and then the sister. But yeah, and it's so beautiful. I love the beautiful harmonies, and you got, what's his name, Phil Ramone? I believe Phil Ramone actually produced the album. Or maybe he engineered, I believe he engineered. And he got some amazing, talented session players on here, including Paul Griffin. That name, if you're not familiar with that name, played on Highway 61, Bob Dylan. He played on frickin' Asia. He plays that magnificent piano, or I believe he plays piano on Asia, the actual song, you know. But just what incredible people that are on this record, and not just the brothers themselves, you know. And and this is basically a compilation. I did had, you know, the box set that had pretty much, because they only lasted about 5 years, from 67 to 72. And I had that box set that pretty much had all their albums, but my brother, he's moved away. He lives about maybe an hour from, half hour from where I live, you know. I still live with my parents, so. But he lives all the way out in Chuliotta with his fiance. Because they're actually, my older brother and his girlfriend, well, fiance or whatever, they're getting married in a couple months. So, yeah, so he has that box set that's called Butterflies Are Free. And that's actually, I believe that's from one of their albums. It's not from the Kites Are Fun album. But yeah, I love the song Kites Are Fun. I love, one of my favorites, which is absolutely one of those, and it's like incredible how like a mind like Chris Dedrick, you know, can make a song so symphonic, but though the meaning and though the message of the song is absolutely insane. I mean, this is 1967. I mean, this song could have been written maybe in 66 or something like that. The album was recorded sometime in late 66 and like early 67. But it kind of reminds me a lot of Get Together, and it's Make the Madness Stop. And I love how they, you know, it's almost mystical. It's almost like kind of like, almost rather just really spiritual. It almost has like a spiritual awakening or something, you know. And I just absolutely love the whoa, 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 da 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 da, completely make the madness stop. And it's just like, wow, don't we need that song now? Like, man, Make the Madness Stop. It's just absolutely beautiful. I also like My Brother Woody, which you can actually see them performing that. They're not actually performing it live, but they're lip syncing it on the Mike Douglas show. It's wonderful. And some other like cover stuff, you know. And I really like how they can, just that whole first album, it just has a little bit of that jazzy, and almost has a little bit of improv too as well, like, you know, which is kind of crazy for a group, you know, and this is 1967, you know, incredible. I also like their other one too. I mean, every one of their albums are really, really great, really top notch. You know, one that's called If You Could Be Born Again. I love that title of the album too as well. Heaven, Earth. Sing for Very Important People. Now here they're only showing just like 6 of their albums, but they did have a compilation, I believe. It was kind of like a, you know, because they very much, and I definitely for sure were definitely heavily influenced on Peter, Paul, and Mary, but not just them, but they were very heavily, I mean, just the Mamas and Papas, Spanky and Our Gang. I mean, Spanky and Our Gang may have came a little bit, maybe like a month or whatever, but, you know, right around that time, you know. And they have a little bit more, they have that bossa nova, you know, they got a lot of that Sarah Jo Mendez and Herb Albert, and their vocals and their harmonies, just like I said, the Mamas and Papas and the Association, and so many of those great, fantastic groups, the Fifth Dimension. I could literally just ramble on, just so many great, talented groups that really influenced, or that really put, I believe, the Free Design right up there just with them. But man, I mean, they could have been so much. They could have been so much of a big, I mean, just a big draw, just like, you know, just like those other groups, you know, that I had just talked or whatever, that I just listed there. Now they did have. Now I do like their last album. I believe it's called "There Is a Song," and it has a really great song, which is actually dedicated to Peter, Paul, and Mary. That's called Peter, Paul, and Mary, and it's really great. But and it's wonderful. I really like how they really compiled really some of their great songs onto this compilation. That's called Kites Are Fun, the best of the free design. Now, in the late 90s and the early 2000s, they did, however, I believe Chris had a project, or I think he reformed the free design and had maybe a couple albums. There was a movie, in fact, with Will Ferrell and Dustin Hoffman that features one of the free design songs. I don't remember what the name of it is. Yeah, but they had two albums, I believe. I think it was 2000, or maybe it was like 1999, and then the other was like 2002 or something like that. But wonderful stuff. I love the free design. And if you want to check them out, I would definitely recommend them. Definitely for sure. Till then, folks, take care. Bye-bye.